what have we learned? We've now been retired for a bit. We kind of are far from the place where we started this journey.
Very far.
Very far. So looking back, what are some of the things we have learned that are worth sharing?
I think one of the first things that I learned, at least, was, of course, one day you're working and the next day you're retired. But that doesn't really describe what happens. It's a process. You lead up to it. I led up to it like this. And then you get there, and then it takes you a while, and you have to go through a process that includes odd things, like mourning your old job, and the fact that you're now entering into a new life. The notion that you're gonna have to work to figure out what your new life is going to be.
And figure out what you liked about your old life and what you didn't. I
Right.
mean,
Which we did, and it was a very useful activity.
It was.
To actually talk about what that was and figure it out.
write it down. Yeah.
And as we've talked before, when you work, you have a whole bunch of colleagues there every day to talk to. Now you have to create a new community, because those old colleagues are still working and you're all out here, and you actually don't want to spend your whole life with retired people. You want to be part of a bigger community, and you have to figure out what that is.
Yeah, I think we also, in that kind of figuring out what you miss and what you don't miss, the other part of that is that you realize that you actually can control and fix that. I mean, it's not like this big retirement tsunami came over you and you just were left, So, I mean, I remember when we did that exercise, and we had a yellow pad, of course, but one of the things we both put down, and the thing we missed, was an office. And we hadn't created Luster yet, but we said, well, we can get an office. Let's just get an office. And so we said, where would we get an office? And I think you said, have you heard of WeWork? And I said, well, I'd heard of it, but didn't know what it was really. And so we got a WeWork office, and then we talked about the second thing I remember. We said, we miss having, business cards, not because we had titles anymore, but we just missed having them, so we created them with our emails and our phone numbers on them, I think. So, it was kind of, the notion that you can actually control, the same thing happens with retirement speak. You can actually control how people think about you.
You can. Well, you have to start, of course, by thinking about yourself.
Absolutely.
And then you figure out how you want to present yourself, and then you do it, which is, of course, exactly what you've done all your life. You just don't somehow think you have to do it.
Well, it's ready made for you because you went from institution to institution to institution, right? You went from college and then blah 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 blah. So it was really ready made. Now you have to do it for yourself, but you can actually say I'm retired and then close your mouth and wait for people to amuse
Walk
you
away.
or whatever. Walk away. Or you can say, actually this is what I've been doing and this is what I saw recently and this is where I've been and be out and about it in the world and interesting. Right, and so that's a matter of control. I think control is a really big piece of it. But just going back to something else you said, that mourning period was important because that's what led us to figuring out the afternoons were really troubling for us. And do you remember that? I mean, when we retired, the mornings were easy because you had stuff to do, you had the newspaper to read, you had blah 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 blah, and then all of a sudden the afternoon hit, and it was like, ugh. I mean, and then you realize you could schedule your doctor's appointments and hairdresser appointments in the afternoon, so that solved that problem.
That was a blindingly new thought.
It